So good morning, and thank you for everybody for being here. And they're right, it's really hard to see you out there with these lights. It's such an amazing opportunity to have Amy in our community. She is a force. As you've noticed, the people she knows and this forum, it's been a wonderful opportunity to share ideas. And I'm so honored to be the state legislator she's allowed to be in this forum, considering that our legislature just passed laws to prohibit local ability to manage their plastics. And we have CAFOs in the south part that are dairies, which is that confined animal operations, and we fight having to manage those with our beautiful environment every day. I just wanted to let you know that this area and this opportunity, as one of our speakers just a moment ago mentioned, we have the opportunity in a small community like this in this valley to be able to do things in a contained small ability to set an example for what other communities that are larger in the state and around the country is possible doing. And we had all of these amazing speakers here to be able to talk about how that's possible, what those solutions are, and I've been extremely encouraged by all of the talk we've had over the last 3 days about what's possible and what we can use to do better. Now, I'm one of those, probably unlike most of my colleagues in the legislature, that really believe that local governments is where a lot of this is going to happen. State government is responsible for protecting public health and safety and fostering economic opportunities, but we are there to support and be a partner with our local communities for policies and programs. And I truly believe that the further up that you go within the government arena, the less able it is able to be malleable and functional and move swiftly and take on new ideas. And that happens as you get closer to the people, which is your local governments. And I'll mention a few things that we're up against within most of the country, but particularly in Idaho. Our aging infrastructure is in a crisis, and it is nationally. But within Idaho, we have 700 bridges that have been deemed unsafe. And when you start thinking about public health and safety, which is what our responsibility is, we need, besides thinking about roads and bridges and public transportation, we also need to be talking about water and sewer systems and energy grids. All of this is about 50 to 100 years old. And it's time for us to think about what we need to do to protect public health and safety by putting the money aside, seizing the opportunity to build new efficient systems, which will require a large workforce and boom the economy. Local governments, as I mentioned, are more responsive to this, and they are closest to the people. But our small rural and mountain communities struggle. Idaho has very few urban centers, so our solutions must be self-contained and productive for smaller communities. The tourist-based economy that we have the luxury of having in this area is also the first hit when there's a financial crisis, and it's also slow to recover. But we are blessed with some of the best air, water, and natural resources on the planet, and we must learn how to use those efficiently, smartly, and to our advantage economically. Our power grids need to be more diversified. Idaho Power, as was mentioned yesterday, if you were here to listen to the energy piece of that, is losing coal in its portfolio. And it has an aging hydrologic system, and its facilities are in need of replacing. This will definitely impact ratepayers, but it's an opportunity to make sure that we in government and into the private sector be mindful that solar and wind is so plentiful in southern Idaho, and it should be incorporated as we go forward with new energy portfolios. We've had 2 catastrophic fires in this area. Wildfire in 2007 burned 49,000 acres, and in 2013, 115,000 acres. And it's miraculous that it did not take out our community, Ketchum and Haley in particular. Both incident commanders for both those fires marveled at the cooperation of our sheriffs, fire departments, emergency services, and particularly our community. They showed resilience. Our forests do need to be managed differently. Expensive, life-threatening wildfires cannot be our new normal. Collaboratives in Idaho have been working for decades to bring together federal and state agencies, conservation organizations, industry, and particularly the public to strategically improve the health of forests while creating jobs. And this is something that we'll need to do on a larger scale all across the West. First in time, first in right. Use it or lose it. This is water law in Idaho. Water needs need to be redefined all across the West. This district is ground zero for our water fights. We have 2 water calls, senior users calling on junior users, surface users calling on pumpers, and drought and diminishing snowpack have challenged our ability to manage our water, but we need to be thoughtful, creative, and efficient. Idaho is the only state to have adjudicated the surface and groundwater in the state, 80% of it, and we are soon to complete the rest of it. We have a water bank and a water board, and we have a commitment to recharge our aquifer. And for those of you who don't know recharge, there are places where you can put water back into the ground to recharge the aquifer underneath us. And our Snake River Plain aquifer is one of the largest in the North American continent. With approximately 29,000 acres, it spreads from Yellowstone National Park in the east all the way to the Oregon-Idaho border on the west. Our aquifer is dropping a foot a year. 3 million acres of farmland in the Snake River Plain, which is really high desert and very arid, is irrigated. This extensive irrigation system is the primary reason why Idaho has the highest per capita water consumption in the US. According to the USGS report, which came out in 2010, on water use across the nation, Idaho is number 1 in the amount of domestic water used per person, and number 2 in the water used by agriculture. We must do better. And we're working with all water users right now to use the infrastructure we already have in place to do better, and perhaps, if we succeed, we will set a new example for how water is managed differently in the West. Accountability, efficiency, shared responsibility, shared values, as we've heard earlier, and taking care of our special resources. It's a team effort. And I am very confident that the small community, similar to what the gentleman said about the community in Italy, is capable of putting all of these pieces together and making sure that we set an example of how we manage our communities to be more supportive and long-lasting into the future. So I'm really pleased to introduce you to the people who will be speaking before you to explore the risks and that have impacted people and places in our communities, particularly in our small mountain communities, and show how we can turn these challenges into successes so that communities thrive.